My name is Jonathan Hopp. This is SunnyGoLessons.com. Today we're going to talk about the opening. This lecture is good for people who are about 15Q or below. All right. So if you're above 15Q, you probably will know some of these basic concepts. But it's always good to brush up. The more you know about Go, the stronger you get. Right. So we're going to develop some principles. All right. We're going to start to understand some of the principles that guide how we play. What parts of the boards are we interested in, and what parts of the board are we not interested in? It helps you to really figure that. It helps you in playing the game, because if you spend so much time looking at the whole board, it can be extremely intimidating. It can be very intimidating. So we give principles, guideposts that say, okay, this part of the board is what you should be paying attention to. Forget everything else. That helps us a lot, but while we're still developing our strength. All right. Stronger players do this almost instantly. So as you develop more skills, my basic idea is to help you develop skills like a pyramid, all right? You learn more, and then as you get stronger, there's certain things you don't even think about. All right, so I've got this board position, and I've got two corner enclosures. White's corner enclosure here, and black's corner enclosure here. Okay, the Japanese word is shimari. You'll hear some people say shimari, but I use the word corner enclosure just because I like to use English as much as possible. So in this case, these two stones have very efficiently taken over the corner, and this stone is a little bit higher, right? So normally black's corner enclosure can be like this, but in this game, we've tried to do it with a high move, which is fine, all right? It just depends on what you want to do. This high move just basically says we're going to develop this side a little bit faster. All right, since we have corner enclosures, the idea is that we form a base and they expand out to the sides. Right, the base in the corner, if it's really strong with a corner enclosure, then we really have an excellent, what's called a territorial framework, moyo in Japanese, which we use to eventually create territory. So extending from our different corner enclosures is a really good idea. When we have two corner enclosures facing each other, then it becomes really urgent that we extend. So we're going to talk about this idea of urgency. All right. Urgency is the idea that a certain point is so absolutely vital for one side to control that if it's your turn, you'll take it. All right. If you don't, you'll have to be at a strategic disadvantage, which will last you for a very long time. Urgent moves must be played first. Okay. There's also beneath that is what's called big moves. Big moves are worth a lot of points. However, big moves do not have the same level of strategic urgency that urgent moves do. Right. Urgent moves really change the course of the game. Big moves are big. Don't get me wrong; they're worth a lot of points, but they're not as earth-shattering as urgent moves. And as you play more, you'll start to get a better sense of this. All right. So let's look at this board we got right now. We have two corner enclosures facing one another, and as I said earlier in the opening lecture, I asked you to count the spaces in between stones to help you find the wider side. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. The widest space will be this stone and this stone. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's 11 points wide. So this is technically a little bit one space narrower than the right side. So some of you may think, hey, the right side is the biggest side. It's huge. I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's not urgent. All right. So what's urgent is the side of the board where both of the corner enclosures want to extend to. So that's the top side, okay? This corner enclosure wants to extend to the top side, and this corner enclosure wants to extend to the top side. Because they do that, then the formation that they make is much stronger. So for example, if it's White's turn, White's going to probably play like this. All right, this is about the spot where we want to go. Right in the middle. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away from our corner enclosure. That way our stones aren't too close and they aren't too far. If they're too far, then the connection between our two stones is too weak. Black will easily be able to come in here and will be able to disrupt their connection and live. All right. Remember, the point of Go is to make to encircle the largest area of territory we can, such that our opponent cannot come in and invade successfully. They invade successfully when they make two eyes. So if your stones are far apart, you're giving your opponent more room to maneuver. All right. So this is the vital point. This is the urgent point. We have to rush here to play, because we can appreciate that when we look at, for instance, if Black were to continue, Black will probably swing along the side. If Black doesn't, Black might try to play like this. If Black plays along the side, then White has a really excellent move, which is to play this. It's a good extension. These are two high stones. Remember from the lecture earlier in the series that I said that two high stones have a weakness in that the area underneath them is vulnerable to attack because White can slide under. if black blocks like this, for instance, okay, then white will take the other side here. White has what's called a double wing formation, okay? White has a corner enclosure with side extensions on both sides of the enclosure here and here, all right? So white's developing faster than black is. Okay, white has 1, 2, 3, 4 stones on the left side and 2 stones on the top. Well, all the black stones are at the right side of the board. Black will most likely play something like this. All right, and we'll notice that white's position, white has a double wing position, which means white overall is stronger in this opening than black. All right, I want you to really appreciate that. So, if we go back, we can see why this is such a big deal. So black will most likely play like this. Okay, white could try to link all his stones together, but then what black can do is basically get his double wing formation like so. All right. And now black is looking to be developing ahead of white, all right? So we can think of developing the board and go like a race, all right? You're running a race and you have the other person next to you, all right? So when you get these urgent points, all right, it's like getting a burst of speed right ahead of your opponent, all right? It's that, let's say two people are running down a track and there's a bottle of Gatorade all the way at the end. You're both really, really thirsty. The person to get there first gets the Gatorade. And people get a burst of energy to help them compete as they go along the track. So in this case, this is the Gatorade of the board. Don't you love my metaphors? So this is a double wing formation. So black is clearly solidly ahead. Now, if we have a little bit of trouble, just always remember if there's two corner enclosures next to each other, the space in between them is usually an urgent point. Okay? Because double wing formations are very difficult for our opponent to break up. All right, so let's think some more about those pivotal points in the opening. So here we have white is pressed down on black. This is a standard sequence. Joseki, as you might already know, if you don't know about Joseki or standard sequences, we have plenty of lectures on those. This standard sequence is where white presses down on black and black makes territory, where white gets the outside. It's that seesaw effect. One person gets outside influence, one person gets territory. If you're getting both, your opponent sucks. So we're going to try to take this investment, this wall, and we have to extend from it such so that if we don't extend from it, we end up losing points. We have to extend from it in a way such that it makes a lot of territory. So in this case, I would extend to about here. All right. So this way, we build a base for this wall. Okay, we're building territory. Remember, when you surround territory, that's the territory you're going to use to make two eyes if your group is going to get sealed in. Okay, the more territory you have, the more farmland you have, the more food you have, the more space you have to live. Okay, so you can think of that as life for your stones. As you get stronger, it will be second nature to you. But I want you to start thinking about that now. So when black extends here, if white extends here, if black decides to check his extension, white will play like this, and now we're starting to build this area. All right, we're starting to come into the center. We're starting to build a base. Compare this to white playing here. Now this looks like a really big move, all right? It is a big move, right? The space in between these two stones is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's a pretty wide side, right? I mean, so coming in and basically saying to black that I want to take this spot away because I don't want you getting this spot. And playing 3 linked stars, all right? That's a very good formation for black. Black has 3 high stones, an important wide area of the board. There's no, this is not necessarily a bad move. It's a big move. And by extension, preventing that big move from happening is also a big move. All right? But, despite the fact that this is a big move, we need to watch out for urgent moves, right? It's urgent to stabilize this group. Okay, this group needs eye space. It can't just be a wall sitting here, especially given the fact that there's a black stone across the way. So if black would play something like this around the spot where white played, even as far as this group is looking to be squeezed in. It's going to have to find some way to stabilize itself. We built this wall to expand. We didn't build this wall to just survive. If we wanted to just survive, we would have taken the corner. All right. So now we can see, even though this is a big move, this is a strategically important move. It's not for the overall urgent, okay? It's not our number one priority. Urgent moves are our number one priority. And in this case, if we look at the difference, stabilizing this group and building from it is urgent, is higher on our priorities list. Okay, so I'm going to keep hammering away at this. We want those pivotal, urgent, really big moves first before our opponent gets them. We want to identify them, and we want to grab them as soon as possible. So we have Black's very, very, very nice territorial framework, Moyo in Japanese, all along the top edge and the right part of the board. All right, so it's pretty big. White's not doing so badly himself. White got tons of territory here in exchange for Black's wall. White has corner enclosure here, and White has some territory over here in a fairly safe group. So White's not doing too poorly for himself, but it's Black's turn, and it's very important now that Black get the pivotal point in development, okay? So one of the things we learn about in Go is that the border between the territorial frameworks is very important. It's just like the first example where I showed you that the spacing between the shimaris, that point that either corner enclosure wants to grab, was very, very big. So you can kind of think of it in just the same way, all right? So like, think about it for a second. Pause the video. Think about where Black should play. Where's the pivotal point on this board? Okay, so Black should immediately, without thinking, play here. Okay, this move is huge, all right? So I want you to start really visualizing the edges of your territorial frameworks when you make them, all right? So we can draw an imaginary line. You even can trace it with your finger, but you probably won't be able to do that in a real game. So far, it looks like our territorial framework goes like this. All right, the box going this way, it goes up here, it goes over, and then it kind of slants here, all right? So this is what it looks like. We want to expand that. We want to make that bigger, all right? And so the key point for making that bigger is to place something like this, all right? This, therefore, takes our line, and now instead of our line going this way, it starts to come this way, which encompasses all of these extra little points here. It also makes it much more difficult for our opponent to come in here. The more control of the center we have, the harder it is for our opponent to invade. Okay, they have to, when they invade, they'll have a much more difficult time. So that's why this is so absolutely big. Okay, it takes our border and it really enlarges it. Compare that to if White plays here. All right, now our border is flattened. Okay, White's pushing us back from a safe distance. This white stone is a one-space jump away from this stone. They're not going to get separated from each other. If that's the case, then this white stone is pushing back at Black from a safe distance. So that's why we try not to we have to identify these really urgent points and play them right away. All right, it's very important. I want you to get into that mindset because if you play elsewhere on the board, let's say you try to reduce White here, or you think that this Black stone needs help, so you make an extension here, or you want to play one of these funky-looking moves to try to beat White back. Sure, it's a big move. I have no problem in saying this is a big move. Is it urgent? No. It's not urgent because this move is overall for the whole efficacy, the efficiency of all the rest of your stones. This move affects how efficient all these stones work, while this move only affects the efficiency of these two stones. Okay, so it's a night and day difference because now Black has to defend over here. If Black continues over here for some reason, White can start to come in to Black's area of influence, and now because White has built up the strength on the outside, it's harder for Black to counterattack. Remember, if your opponent can connect back to friendly stones and actually starting to squeeze you, then the area you thought you had control over is now starting to become destroyed, and the person who was defending is now the person who's going to be attacking. So in this case, White will come in to Black's area of control now. So that's why this move right here is considered slow. It's a big move. It's a very big move. Moves like this and this overall point-wise are pretty big. It's much bigger, much bigger, and much more urgent to take moves like this. All right, let's continue on with this idea. I really want to hammer it home. All right, so what have we learned so far? We learned about the importance of the vital point between two corner enclosures. We talked about the extending from our thickness. We even talked about the critical points on the borders of our moyos, all right, our territorial frameworks. All right, these are all very important, urgent moves that we need to think about. We need to hone in on when we have the opening. There's another kind. Okay, Black makes a corner enclosure. White plays here because White wants to prevent this corner enclosure from extending towards this side. This is a very wide side. And this corner enclosure likes to extend towards this area, so White preempts that, okay? Then Black invades. Okay, Black comes in. White decides to keep Black from coming into the corner by walling it off. Black adds liberty to his stone. White jumps, and now we've come to a point where we have to decide what we're going to do with these two stones. Or do we play elsewhere? Remember, we don't necessarily have to play from our stones. We have the entire board. These are all legal moves. All right, if you played in the tournament, you played on any of these points, you would not be able to take the move back. So they're all legal moves. So do we have an urgent move to play, or do we have something else bigger that in mind? All right, I want you to think about this for a little while. Pause the video, and we'll go over it. All right, so we do have an urgent move. All right, so again, you probably guessed that. The idea here is that these two stones don't have a base. All right, so that's our fourth type of urgent move. Our stones don't have a base, and they urgently need a base. They either need to come to the center, or they need to make a base and to make territory along the side. Remember, a basis for your stones is territory, grabbing territory on the side. All right, grabbing those points. Those points turn into eyes in case you ever get enclosed. So in this case, black needs to play this. Okay, black needs to extend two spaces. It's not exactly ideal. For a two-stone wall, we really would like to make a three-stone jump. What that means by we make a two-stone wall, ideally we'd like to have three spaces in between the wall and the stone we extend from the wall. In this case, we can't really do that because white's in the way, right? White has a stone here, not going to play here. So we don't want to touch the stone over here. We don't want to start a fight with white. We just want to extend our stones and try to start to take this area and make it into our territory. If this area becomes our territory, it becomes our eye space. If it becomes our eye space, these stones live. Now, white also cannot play elsewhere. White's going to have to make a base for himself as well. All right, so white has to extend along the side to make sure his stones stay healthy and stay fit, and make sure that they have territory. All right, for themselves. If we go back, there's plenty of big moves on the board. If black plays like this, that's a big move. All right, this is a wide open area. There's this stone here. There's a white stone here. Black can approach the white stone, but black loses control over the bottom. These two stones don't have any area here to make two eyes. They cannot grab territory. Their only way out of the situation is towards the center, to try to jump towards the center. Something like this, or something to that effect. The problem in this case is that when black jumps out to the center, he's not making points. All right, we want points. So while we have a big move, we did have a big move, and we suffer elsewhere. All right, so this big move isn't so big. All right, you're paying a price for leaving these two stones alone. The price you're paying is that white can attack them. Now these two stones here are very strong. Okay, they're very good because they make territory while attacking. These stones are also very strong because white can continue to extend, to pressure these black stones, and basically say, listen, black, you can't make two eyes here, and I'm not going to allow you any access to this land right here. You're going to have to live in this narrow little infrastructure, all right? And so basically, when we play the big move here, it isn't actually so big, isn't because we're paying a price for it. All right. Review this video if you have to. This is a very, very important concept. It will really take you far in your opening and really strengthen your Go principles to focus on urgent moves before focusing on necessarily big moves. All right, I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and I'll see you next time.